Whoa, how we doing? What's up, Gary? You just walked up fast. I didn't even know it was you. Oh, we got the key here. What has changed? What has improved?
What has changed? What has improved? I think a lot of the logistics are tighter. I think we were more thoughtful about giving people room to breathe, not making things overly crowded. That's worked. And I think what's improved is the continuation of the depth of the community. You know, the VeeFriends brand was thought through very heavily. It's very heavy on the friends part. I want my characters to be friends with each other in their animations and games and books and movies that we come out with over the next 3-4 decades, and I want this community to become bigger and bigger friends with each other, and I'm excited about that.
Hell yeah. Who are you most excited to have here this year?
You know, probably you. You know, I thought that you were going to be able
so.
to. Yeah, I thought you were going to be able to bring a lot to the table this year, and you've been able to come through.
A lot of people were speculating that, and I think they're right. So, Schultz was here last night.
Yep.
I was watching him with you. I heard you laughing. What'd you think?
I thought he was great. You know, like it's funny. It's a very young brand right now, but I think of it as from a 0 to 99 brand, and what I mean by that is, you know, Batman. You know, when the comic book came out young, when the TV show in the 60s with Adam S came out young. But some of the movies we've had in the 2000s, that's for a more mature audience.
Right.
And we've been doing a lot of the young stuff, and I thought some of the entertainment to be a little bit old, you know, it's all adults out there.
Right.
So, you know, I thought that could be fun. And I think that a lot of people don't understand the value of a comedy show. And I was really happy how many people on social last night and this morning were talking about that was their first real comedy show and things of that nature. And so in general, and you know this, and this is why I think we've always had a tight kinship, I think comedy as a genre is underrated. I don't think it's understood of how important it is to society. And much like, probably my favorite thing about Netflix is that it's been a reboot platform for it. And I would like to, you know, all the endeavors I do, I want to be a platform for it. And so it felt good.
Yeah, you pushed them off the deep end with using Schultz, but he was roasting you a little bit. How'd you feel with that? I saw he said on Brilliant Idiots, he said if he was coming here, he's bringing the jokes. So what'd you think?
I think that it is insane in my mind that I'm at a point of my career that I've accomplished enough that actual real comedians that actually mean something in culture are interested in making jokes about me. I think it was phenomenal. Real talk, like it's 2023 out there right now, and like everyone's stomachs are a little weak. Like I grew up in the 80s and 90s in New Jersey. My like friends made fun of me more in between class than Schultz did last night. So, you know, like I'm not worried about jokes. Jokes are just words. The intent from him is nice.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
It was interesting seeing people, because you were sitting in the back, seeing everybody turn around to like look at your face, and you were laughing the whole time. So I can attest you were enjoying it. What is something you're curious about that most people would be surprised by?
That's a great question. I'm incredibly curious about how my career has been built on my curiosity and my ability to take a lot of information in and come up with hypotheses or understanding about emerging people, emerging brands, emerging technologies. I'm really curious on how good I'm going to get at using AI to help me think through my things. You know, search engines were a huge thing for me. I used to have to think in my own head, and I wasn't going to the library. I wasn't a good reader. But search engines came along, and social media came along, and it really empowered some of my hypotheses. It gave me affirmation, it gave me insight. Well, AI can take that to the moon. And so I'm most curious about how good I get at it over the next decade to be a thought partner of mine to get to better observations and more opportunities to do good in the world.
Amazing. Do you have time? Elton wanted to step in and ask you something. Is that cool?
Gary, all good, my man? How you doing? So, of course, I'm a huge wrestling fan. You're a huge wrestling fan. Can you give me some like warm memories of like maybe a New York wrestling fan? Like what'd you do in the 80s as like coming up?
Like meaning wrestling my friends and trying to like
Going to shows, everything.
got it. We were too poor to go to shows. There was no go to shows. But, you know, I'll give you one thing I think a lot about. I had this move called the Russian Death Lock that I used to throw on my friends. Sean, can you come here? I'm going to put the Russian Death Lock on you. Okay. So just turn around. Okay. This was my go-to. You got to understand. Get in here. Oh, yeah. In the 80s, like kids like wrestled each other for real.
Yeah.
Like real. And everybody had to make up their own move, and I think I came up with a good one. It was called the Russian Death Hold. It's nothing crazy. You'll be fine. Okay. But I was born in the Soviet Union, Nikolai Volkov, so it was the Russian deathlock, actually. And I'm going to demonstrate it. So it was basically like a full Nelson. It wasn't anything bad. But what I realized was there was like this hook within here. So I'd go here, right? And if I would lock,
Oh, there we go. I heard that crack.
if I would lock, what do you think?
Yeah, that's okay.
Does it hurt?
Is there?
His face is turning red. His face is turning red.
Yeah. So where's the HR department?
No, seriously, was this like that's a good move?
Oh, yeah, it hurt. It was great.
So, you know, the Russian deathlock was a big move, and a lot of people would tap on that move. You know, people would make the mistake of like trying to kick, and then I'd try to get him. It was really good, and like I had a good career. Robbie Turnick, Eric Godfrey, Andy Greco, they all know they took big L's.
Boss man right there. All right.
Other memories were like, you know, how wrestling back then had the superstars and then the goons, right? So now it's all superstars, but back then, Sean, you okay? Yeah. It's good. Okay, good. So like Iron Mike Sharp and K9 and Barry Horowitz.
Oh, pat on the back. Of course.
You know, so like those guys I remember quite a bit because it was just funny to me like how wrecked they would get in every Saturday morning. But Saturday mornings, to me, it's like kids cereal, kids cartoon, wrestling, go outside and play. Right. It was just so foundational.
Sweet. So I know superstar Billy Graham just passed away. So what are some of your warmest memories of him?
You know, he was cool for me because like I realized somewhere like 3-4 years into my wrestling career of like being a fan, because remember pre-internet, so you didn't really know a lot. Like you had to like
Dirt Sheet magazine.
Yeah, you had to get the magazine. Like, and I was like, when he came back, a little bit older, like in '86, '87, they kind of story told of what he was actually doing in the late '70s and early '80s. Where I was like, oh, he was like a Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's kind of how I think about him. And he was great on the mic and just a legend.
So who are your top 5 dead or alive?
Top 5. Number 1 all time is Randy the Macho Man Savage. He's just my number 1, and it's not even close. When all my friends were all about Hogan, I was all about Macho Madness. This is where it gets interesting. It gets a little, believe it or not, from number 1, everything else becomes blurry because it ebbs and flows. If I'm being my own personal, it goes weird places like The Missing Link. And I didn't love Terry Funk. The Missing Link was like one that I loved. Moondogs, the Moondog tag teams. I did love the British Bulldogs. But if I'm being subjective of like, what do I think? Macho Man. And then if I think who are really the top 4 GOATs, for me it's Ric Flair, Andre the Giant, The Undertaker. And my 4th one, and I know there's a lot of others that people would be emotional about, but my 4th one is an interesting one. I really, really do think Bret Hart is underrated. You know, like, I feel like he's just like I don't think like obviously he gets his flowers, but like the Hart Foundation is top 3, 5, 7 all-time tag teams. Right. He carried the WWF, WWE as their champion face for such a long time when they needed him into the, you know, Stone Cold and Rock era. So I'm going to go Bret Hart.
Oh, perfect. Gary, my man.
Thank you, bro.
Bret Hart fans, I love it.